back. We're live. We're Think Tech. We're talking about Hawaii, the state of clean energy here. And today we're going to talk about advances in clean transportation, namely electric cars, EVs, and hydrogen vehicles, also with our guests, Jeff Michelina of Blue Planet Foundation and Mitch Ewan of HNEI, which is the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute,
yes.
Right? I love acronyms, yeah?
Got it.
Say hello, Jeff.
Hi, good to be on.
Thank you for being here.
Having me.
Mitch, the same. Hello to you.
Aloha.
Is everything good?
Everything's good.
Okay, so now we're gonna delve into this. You know, the last program that the Energy Policy Forum did, I have more and more regard, okay, for Think Tech Hawaii. I mean, rather the Energy Policy Forum. Sharon Moriwaki is there, trying hard to distract me, and she's succeeding. So the last program we did was about transportation. It's very important. That's why we're having this discussion today. Okay, but we have Keith Block here. He's from Hawaii Energy. He's one of our sponsors, actually, along with Hawaiian Electric and DBED. There are three special sponsors for this special show, or for the Wednesday show, as it were. So, hi, Keith. You guys figure out anything new you want to suggest for energy efficiency? Anything you thought about at 2 o'clock in the morning? I know they have meetings at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's nice to see employee engagement like that, Keith.
Yeah, Jay, thanks for inviting us out again. Today what we wanted to talk about was just an exciting new trend that we're seeing in the retail market sector, and that's the adoption of LED lighting technologies. And when you talk about retail, those people know what they want things to look like. They know what the quality of light is. They live and breathe on how things look. So when you start to see the retail sector start to adopt LED technologies, then you know we're here. And we've seen everything from high-end stores at Ala Moana to major drugstore chains adopting this technology. And really what it is it's, and I'm sure we've all seen it, but we probably never really knew what it was, but it's these small little, they're called MR16 lights, and they're along these tracks, along all kinds of displays. Like I said, at Ala Moana, you'll see them in every store. And those little lights, each one of those generally was a halogen light, and it took 50 watts to power it. Now they're changing those out to 7 watt, 10 watt LEDs. And the thing you get with that is not only a reduction of, down to a quarter, I mean 25% of the energy that they were using before, but you get longer lives. These things are, the LEDs now are lasting, 25, 50,000 hours. The old halogen lights were 6, maybe 7,000 hours, so you get a quadrupling in the life expectancy and a tremendous amount of energy savings, along with, since they're using much less energy, they're putting out a lot less heat. So in fact, I had one jewelry counter that was ecstatic because not only was their jewelry looking much nicer under these LED lights, but they were also cooler. So they were very, very happy with that. So that's an exciting trend that we're seeing. Hawaii Energy has rebates for LED technologies. Those LEDs will get a $9 rebate from us if they're not dimmable, $10 if they are dimmable. You likely wouldn't see dimmable in a retail market sector, but $9 from us. I know you're always interested in cost. The halogens, $6 or $7 per lamp for a halogen. The LEDs, $20 to $30, but when you take $9 off from us, it's a good investment, especially when you look at the energy savings and the long lives.
Keith, you noticed it in our studio here, in our Think Tech studio here in Pioneer Plaza. We have lots of LEDs. You noticed that? I
noticed that as soon as I looked in and saw them, because they are so cool. Because you can change the color temperature on these lights. They can be super bright, or they can be yellow and warm. So yeah, I was very excited to see your new lights.
You think they qualify? Because in each one of these light banks, there's hundreds of LEDs.
It's funny that you should ask that, because you're not the first one that has asked us about stage lighting, LED stage lighting, and that is something actually we are very much looking at. Although the market segment is kind of small, and sometimes burn hours are kind of short too, but it is something we're looking at, and they're definitely more efficient than the lights you had before.
Oh yes, they are, and they're bright. My guests will tell me, and they're very cool. Yeah. They're very cool. Yeah. We use less power. They're easy to turn on. They're dimmable, and they weren't actually that expensive. So we're really happy. We got them from B&H Photo in New York.
Yeah, they look terrific.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Is that it?
That's it from me.
Okay, all right. Sharon.
As always, go to hawaiienergy.com for more information.
Okay, thank you, Keith. That was Keith Block. He's from Hawaii Energy. He told us about LED lights. We are happy to know that. Thank you very much, Keith. So let's get to the main topic of discussion: electric vehicles. And I like to be provocative, so I'm going to tell you. Well, first let's talk about the news. Then I'll be provocative. What's the news, Jeff Michelina?
Yeah, I think the most exciting news with electric vehicles is the huge growth we've seen in uptake and adoption. We're probably going to hit 2,000 electric vehicles registered in Hawaii next month. In California earlier this year in June, sort of interesting, the Tesla S, that high-end model Tesla sedan.
Yeah, the sedan, yeah.
Which, got the Motor Trend Car of the Year.
I've been having recurrent dreams about that, yeah.
Well, there's a few hundred in Hawaii already registered. But it outsold in California in June. The Tesla S outsold all makes of Buick, Lincoln, Porsche, Volvo, Cadillac, and Jaguar.
The high end. What about 70, 80,000?
Yeah, I think it starts at 60, but then if you want
Yeah,
the
you
300
add
mile
things and it
range
costs more.
Right.
And the Roadster is something about 125 now.
Something, but they're coming out with the X. It's kind of going to be a SUV sort of model with the all-wing doors.
SUVs. Oh, jeez.
But what's exciting, and coming up next year, we have about 15 new electric vehicle models, offerings from BMW, in fact, from Audi and Volkswagen coming out with a new one. Ford
Gee,
Fusion.
we got something going here then, doesn't it sound
I think
like
so.
it?
And
Yeah.
with the increase in models, I think you're going to see more uptake, more price points,
Yeah.
and just, not everyone loves the Leaf, even though that's the most popular electric vehicle in Hawaii. So you'll have options in the future. So I think we'll see just a continued exponential growth in electric vehicle uptake in Hawaii.
But it's a study in how, because this is ultimately consumers. I mean, you can talk about trying to convince them and all that, but they have to make the decision. They have to write the check and get the financing, whatever it is. So this is a story about how this has permeated the consumer, or is permeating the consumer market. If you asked me a year ago, I would have said, oh, gee, this is slow. But now it sounds like it's picking up. It's not where we would have wished, where we thought we might have gone.
Right.
But it's going.
Right. It's going very rapid. And I think the best sales folks are the folks that have a vehicle.
Yeah,
that
sure,
they're
that's true.
evangelists and
Yeah.
take people for a ride, and you realize it's quiet, it has great pickup, they're generally safe, and they're just great cars.
Okay, but 2,000 out of how many?
Out of 1 million. So we're at 0.2%. But you know what? That's where cell phones started, that's where computers started, that's where all this technology starts.
Okay, now let's, turning from the sublime
I thought of
to the hydrogen.
I thought of some new news.
Okay, we have news.
Yeah, we have news
Okay,
from the
that's
hydrogen
the
front.
voice of Mitch Ewan from HNEI. He spends most of his time on hydrogen cars, right?
I do, yes, exactly.
So what's the news on
well,
hydrogen?
I'm pleased to make a couple of announcements. They're not. First of all, the hydrogen fueling station at Schofield is just completing commissioning. So we'll have our second hydrogen fueling station in Hawaii. The first one is at the Pearl Harbor base, the Hickam Air Force Base. And recently started construction on my project, which is putting in a third fueling station at the Marine Corps base. That started, and we're trucking down the road on that. And finally, a brand new fuel cell electric shuttle bus is due to arrive here in Hawaii in a couple of weeks at HCAT, Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technology. General Osserman, who's just retiring from the Air Force as the new director of HCAT, took a ride on it in California. He said it was awesome. He said the pickup and the drive was so smooth. He said it's a great bus.
Was he driving it?
He was driving it, and
I guess it wasn't above his pay grade.
no, it wasn't. And we'll be getting 3 more of those buses, so we'll have a fleet of 4 fuel cell electric buses here in Hawaii by this time next year. So
Okay, that's news.
That's news.
It's going somewhere.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there is an obvious contrast between the two. First, it just seems to me, and you can correct me on this, but the hydrogen vehicles are all in the military. That's why generals drive them around. And it's like almost experimental with federal military money. That's what we got here. I mean, is there anybody in the island, any ordinary person like Jeff or me, for example, who's actually driving a hydrogen vehicle right now today?
Well, you drove one.
I mean, own it and drive it.
No, not yet.
And I wouldn't find them on the freeway or anything.
They're still experimental, and we have a fleet of 16 General Motors Equinox vehicles. And
I've driven, that's the one I drove.
That's the one you drove, which you loved.
I loved.
Rave reviews.
I loved. I liked it very much.
Yeah.
I thought it was the best thing, but
exactly.
It's got to be there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're coming.
Okay.
Just like the British.
Just like the cavalry.
Yeah.
Okay, so the comparison to start with is charging stations. And before we take this break, which I feel is coming soon, I feel it. How many charging stations for electric vehicles in the state of Hawaii so far, Jeff?
We do that after the break.
We're going to do that after the
Check your notes.
Okay, that's Jeff Michelina, and Mitch Ewan is here, and we're talking about electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles here on Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, on Energy Wednesday. Think Tech. We'll be right back after this break.
We want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
I'm Nicole Horry. Thanks so much for joining us on Think Tech.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
Thank you, Jack Waters. Thank you, Liga Rodriguez of KGU. This is Hawaii, the state of clean energy and ThinkTech, and we're talking about advances in clean transportation, which we think is very important. That's why the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum had this big program a month ago, something, about transportation, trying to tackle it, because transportation is very hard. There are, you don't realize how much time you spend every day in transportation and how much money. So we're talking about electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles here with Jeff Michelina of Blue Planet Foundation and Mitch Yu and the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute. I love acronyms. I'm getting better at it all the time. Okay, so as we left it, the cliffhanger was how many electric vehicle charging stations in the state, as far as we know. Any idea there, Jeff?
I'll back into it, because what we do know is Hawaii leads the nation in per capita charge spots. So we have a fairly good network that's being developed. There's some hiccups along the way with companies, coming and going, but probably a few hundred that folks can use. And then don't forget that most folks have charging at home, and
Yeah, sure.
that's where most of the charging will take place.
I know that Sharon Moriwaki does. She, you got to have charge. Sharon, are you there? I can't hear you. I'm having separation anxiety. Sharon, tell us about your charging station.
I love my charging. It took a while because I think I was the first one to have one in a condo. And that's difficult because you've got a line that has to go from wherever the electric source is to your slot in the condo. So that's more difficult than the single family dwelling unit. But it's great. Love it.
It's nice to have it at home.
It is.
I keep thinking of leapfrog. Leapfrog technology. You go down a road. This is only theoretical. You go down the road, and you're trying to plan against the problem. That's why you use technology. That's why, for example, you would build a lot of charging stations. And then something disruptive happens. They find another kind of battery, for example, or they make a battery that lasts, for 9,000 miles. I'm like exaggerating, but say 500 miles, okay? All of a sudden, all those charging stations that you wanted to have, you don't need them anymore.
Right.
This could happen, am I right?
This could happen, and it's going to happen with the gas stations. I think we'll look at those unless they convert to hydrogen fueling stations as, kind of this museum pieces that, remember when we used to pull up and pump gas, pump a flammable fluid into our tank and drive around with it?
It was always uncomfortable, Still is.
So we don't have horses anymore.
True.
We used to have
No buggy
horses
whips
dragging.
either.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I wonder that, it's hard to say what the future will bring. And you only know that it will affect all of us,
I think that's one of the good things, not to interrupt, about electric vehicles is, in terms of what you put in them, it's fairly technology agnostic. You just fill them with electrons. And where those electrons come from, be it fossil fuel today, or wind power, or solar power, or some other fuel source, that vessel you can fill, with whatever the source is.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's really an important idea that people have to wrap their minds around. It's totally agnostic. The electric vehicle is only a channel for electrons.
Right.
And we can get them from anywhere. Right now, we're getting them from a lot of oil, because the oil makes the electricity that loads the car. But soon enough, knock wood, don't knock the table, soon enough, knock wood, we'll get them from better places. Ooh, that's an interesting
So
kind of
I'd like to make a point. Hydrogen happens to be agnostic too about where.
Okay, good. I think you should make
where
that
we have
point.
a source, you can make it from trees, you can make it from corn and waste products, and you can make it from electricity, from wind turbines and solar and geothermal and all those other things. Doesn't matter.
How do you do it?
So again,
How do you do it?
There are a variety of
Say I have
technologies.
biomass. Say my name is Richard Ha,
Yeah.
just for example. And,
Well, you put it in a cooker and you cook it and break down the biomass and come out with hydrogen at the end of the process. That's a thermal way of splitting the hydrogen atom off of the carbons that are in the biomass. And with electrolyzers, you use electrolyzers to split the hydrogen off the oxygen molecule. So it's an electrochemical process. So we have two processes, and we have all those resources right here in Hawaii. We don't have to import anything. So
let me get it straight. Everything that Jeff said could feed the car, the electric car. You can use the same things to feed the hydrogen car.
well, the hydrogen car is an electric car. The only difference is where do you
You
get
heard
the
it here on ThinkTech Hawaii.
Where do you get the electrons? I mean, in his case, we get them from a battery, which stores them. In our case, we get them from hydrogen, which generates electrons using a fuel cell, and it feeds the same drivetrain. So we're totally compatible.
You agree with that, Jeff?
Yeah, it comes down to the storage. I mean, there's one exception. I don't know how popular they'll be, but hydrogen combustion vehicles. Do you see that as being?
I don't see that. The efficiencies are about the same as you get with a gasoline engine. Doesn't really. I don't think it's going to work. But that's my opinion. The fuel cell is such a unique and good technology. You're doubling your efficiency or even more.
So let's compare contrast. I mean, that's a good point of comparison, but I guess we should go to the contrast part. What's the difference? I mean, I could think offhand of the fact that hydrogen actually is explosive. I know it's not explosive like fossil fuel, but it's explosive. And you could actually burn your eyebrows right off with hydrogen.
Only if you're standing right up from it. You went to the firefighting
Yes, we
school,
saw that.
and you saw
Mitch
the
and I
guy
were there together.
You
yeah.
saw the guy with his hand that far away from the
Right,
flame, and,
right.
and what, bare hand, and
Yeah.
he was not getting burned.
Yeah,
right?
but he didn't put his hand in the flame. That would have been a different story.
Right.
And the thing about the flame, and I'll never forget as long as I live, is the flame is invisible. You can't tell where the line is with the flame. And that's why the fire department was there trying to, do business with the flame. And they have their techniques. They're all trained up on that. But what is the contrast point? I mean, that's the one contrast point is there is, in fact, a substance that burns in the car, in a hydrogen car.
It doesn't burn so
It doesn't
much.
burn. No, you got that wrong.
But
If you run it through a
if I
fuel
take
cell,
that tank and
Yeah.
open that tank up,
right?
a tank of hydrogen, it's going to burn. Right?
You
Well,
introduced a
If I split that
you introduced a
tank,
new parameter here.
if I split that tank in two, what's in there
Well,
is
good
going
luck
to burn.
trying to do that. You will be the bionic man to try to
I
do
think I
that.
have my answer.
So it really comes down to storage, and I think
Yeah.
you're right. You're carrying a fluid that you then use a fuel cell to create electricity versus today a lithium-ion battery. Tomorrow, who knows what the technology is?
Batteries, I hate to tell you, but batteries also, they blow up and they burn and they hurt people, and right, it's true.
You know what's
I don't want to rain on your parade, guys, but
Lithium doesn't like rain, so yeah. But the safest car. I mean, the Tesla S got that safety rating, and it didn't only get an A. It got the best rating of any car tested. So it just goes to show that these are safe cars. There haven't been, those horror stories that you hear. I mean, it's inevitable we'll have something happen eventually, but from a safety perspective, having an electric vehicle is safer than driving around with a tank full of truly combustible material.
yeah, not hydrogen because it's not.
Well,
It's a kindly combustible.
You've seen the comparison of a hydrogen fire to a gasoline fire.
I have.
And I think you'd rather be in the hydrogen
I
car.
would.
There you go.
I would.
Because
That's
it's
true.
a plume. It just goes straight up
Right.
at 45 miles an hour, and in a minute...
It comes back as water.
That's exactly right. And in a minute, it's burned out. So,
Okay, well, I mean, I guess, so what is a hydrogen fueling station then? Is it a station with a compressed hydrogen that feeds into the car through a pipe of some kind, just
Yeah,
like
correct.
a fossil fuel gas station?
if you drive up to a hydrogen fueling station, the hydrogen is stored in pressure vessels, and you have a dispenser that looks exactly like a gasoline dispenser. It even has a hose, and you just clamp it onto the nozzle that joins it to the onboard tanks, and you open a valve, and it fills it up.
And is there a standard the way there is in electric
Yes,
cars?
there's standards, yes, exactly. And it'll fill it up in under 5 minutes. And that's one of the big advantages between the electric car and the fuel cell car is the ability to quickly recharge or refuel itself in a very short time, whereas an electric car can take hours.
Yeah, rebuttal?
I guess the rebuttal there would be, it's great. We don't want to, we're not debating.
Can't take that away from him.
One of
He's
the
got that
exciting
one.
things is options, having options, For electric vehicles, since you have that battery, and one of the things we need on our grid to support variable resources like solar and wind is that storage capacity. So as soon as we modernize our grid and have kind of a smart grid, we can start to use these batteries as frequency regulation, voltage control, and hopefully one day long-term storage.
Part of the larger battery. I mean, a sort of collective
Right.
network battery.
An
That is a
ecosystem of
beautiful day.
vehicles.
That's
Right.
nirvana. Yeah.
And perhaps fuel cell vehicles can do the same by running electrolyzer both ways. I don't know if that's possible.
Well, actually, we have a project on the Big Island where we're standing up an electrolyzer that will provide the same kind of grid regulation.
I hate
Frequency
to be
regulation.
ignorant, but
Yeah.
what is an electrolyzer for the people?
It's
who
a
don't
reverse
know?
of a fuel cell. It's an electrochemical device where you put electricity in and it produces hydrogen and oxygen. And in this case, for a large electrolyzer, it's like a variable load, so you can load it up and load it down very quickly, and that's can be used to regulate the frequency of the grid. Actually the same kind of effect as large batteries or a group of smaller batteries that you'd find in cars.
This suggests that I could likewise fuel my hydrogen car with electricity. Forget about the hydrogen for a moment. I could fuel that little battery, right?
It'd probably be, I could plug in the electric car into his hydrogen car cigarette lighter.
That's exactly right. I can recharge an electric vehicle, a battery electric vehicle.
So it's
Yeah.
kissing cousins kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk for a minute about the charging stations again. You know, I forget where I saw this, but it really touched me. Another Volta station. And I remember where I was in the Dole movie theater parking lot, right there. And those guys are terrific.
And they're in Hawaii.
And they're in Hawaii. They
company.
make it in
They're a
Hawaii.
Hawaii company.
In a garage somewhere in Ilani Y Street somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's amazing with the beautiful
It's
work.
beautiful.
Yeah. Good business model.
I'm sorry to tell you that we're going to have another break now, but we'll be back. This is Think Tech doing Hawaii, the state of clean energy, advances in clean transportation, electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles with Jeff Michelina and Mitch Ewan, and they agree on some things. Most things.
We agree on everything.
Most everything.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll be right back.
I'm David Day, the host of Asian Review. This is a Think Tech program in which we take the issues of the Asia-Pacific region, whether they be in business, in foreign policy, in national security, or geopolitics. And we take those issues and we try to probe down in some real depth. Maybe it's not always politically correct, but we get to the truth. We do things that the regular media can't do. And the reason that we can do those things is because we here at Think Tech have the contacts, we have the network, and we can take the time and explore the issues in depth. Tune in every Thursday at 4 p.m. here at Think Tech Hawaii. I'm David Day.
I'm Donna Blanchard of Kumukuhua Theater, and when I was young I used to love watching Charlie Chan movies on Family Classic TV on Sunday afternoons. Our show at Kumukuhua that runs from August 22nd through September 22nd is called Will the Real Charlie Chan Please Stand Up? It's written by Nancy P. Moss and takes place right here in Chinatown. I really hope you'll come in and watch it. You will love it. It's everything about the movies that you loved and more. Go to kumukuhua.org to get more information and your tickets. We'll see you there.
I'm Moriwaki with the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. Please join Jay Fidel and me every Wednesday, 4 o'clock p.m. on Energy Wednesday. See you then. Hello.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. Yes, this is Think Tech, broadcasting on Ustream and Spreaker both day and night, doing its thing on OC16 and Olelo, and uploading videos all over YouTube. Check us out and see the links on thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo. Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidel. We're doing Think Tech on Wednesday. Hawaii, the state of clean energy, advances in clean transportation, electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles. And we're here with Jeff Michelina of Blue Planet and Mitch Ewan of HNEI. And just for a moment, we're talking about that Volta company, which is so Hawaii, it's an example of excellence grown right in our midst. They make these beautiful stainless steel objects. You think it went through a big factory somewhere deep in China, and it's happening right here. And then they're spreading out all across the state, really, and on the mainland. So they make, and the business model is wonderful.
Yeah.
You know the business model. Tell me the business model.
So I understand they're just selling advertising space.
Yeah.
That advertising space is paying for electricity to go into the cars.
Yeah.
So folks pull up and get free juice while you're shopping.
And folks get it free. Well, and the landlord doesn't have to pay anything.
Right.
He just gives them the space. It's an accommodation to the tenants and customers and what have you. It's great. I think if I was going to advertise, I'd really consider advertising on one of those because it's a statement about me. I'm modern. I support technology and clean energy. And all
It
that.
looks like an iPhone on its standing
Yes,
on its end.
yes.
And so the beautiful, clear pictures that's coming across from the advertising point of view, it's really effective.
I wonder if they thought about looking like an iPhone.
Yeah, I wonder
if
about
they-
that.
And, I actually talked with Outdoor Circle, just thinking, is there going to be some pushback from this? Because
Yeah.
it does look like.
No.
They said, it's on private land. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not that big.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. But I think the next steps for them and for any charge, provider is looking at the network because that's really the value for electric vehicles. We really don't want every electric vehicle charging at 6 o'clock at night during the peak. We want to find ways to use electric vehicles to support a renewable powered grid, and so to provide the right incentives to move that charging around and hopefully eventually have it a two-way street.
Yeah, well, that was the vision of Better Place a few years ago. It's gone now. I think it folded, but they had. It was going to be in the Pacific Guardian Tower. They were going to have a big office there with a console of computers, and they were going to be able to control all of these cars being charged at home. And interacting with the grid and Hawaiian Electric, and that was going to be something.
Right.
And it was going to be, everybody wins on that. And maybe it could still happen. I mean, I think it can still
think so,
happen.
yeah.
I think it's in the cards for us somewhere
Right.
along the line.
And hey, if it's not Better Place, maybe it's Hawaiian Electric. Maybe it's someone else.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, everything is up for change these days. So what about hydrogen cars? Could they participate in that network of, may I say, batteries?
Not really, no. Where you get that participation is at the electrolyzer level, large electrolyzer level, where you're providing that grid service of regulating the grid, which also allows you to introduce more renewables onto the grid. So not quite the same. Not quite the same.
You not only need the charging stations or the filling stations, as the case may be, but you have right now you have a longer distance, longer range than electric vehicles.
Yeah.
With the hydrogen.
Yeah, they're getting up to 400 miles range.
You need an industry that will convert energy, whether it's fossil or non-fossil energy, into hydrogen. That's
Right.
what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's an opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Why aren't they doing that now? Why aren't they rushing, to make companies that will make hydrogen?
Well, there's one major reason is right now there's not the market. We don't have, like we talked about earlier in the show, we don't have the number of vehicles to create the critical mass which will allow the entrepreneur and the private individual to invest in that kind of technology. So we're right at the start of it, and really it requires government funding at this stage of the game. I hate to say it, but to get this thing going, we need the government to invest to the point where we do have that critical mass where it makes sense for a private company to get in the game. And in my opinion, we should be looking at our buses because they use 30 to 40 kilograms of hydrogen a day. So if you have like 100 buses, all of a sudden you've got 4,000 kilograms. That's starting to get interesting to the private sector. And at the same time, you let the early adopters and the private individuals who have their cars to refuel using that public infrastructure. And the beauty about buses is that the general public get the benefit of that. If you're using taxpayers' dollars, then everybody in the public, every taxpayer should see the benefit of it.
Yeah.
You can ride that bus, and so that's a good use of taxpayer
Do you think
dollars.
hydrogen buses are the way of the future?
Yeah,
I mean, as
absolutely.
opposed to electric buses?
Well, they are electric buses, except
Sorry, I keep saying that.
Yeah, come on.
See, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, because an electric bus will get about 75 miles, whereas these 40-foot transit buses, there are out there, they'll get 300 or 400 miles on a tank full of
So
hydrogen.
maybe that hydrogen is the way of the future for buses.
Yeah.
But you know, I read recently about some city on the mainland that has adopted electric buses, and they have these charge plates. So the bus drives over the charge plate and gets, and you know, not when it's moving, but when it's stopped. And it actually charges itself up and then moves off. And the charge plates can be anywhere in the city. So this is really working out well. They've sort of, you know, adopted this technique to deal with the range problem. But this city is, that city, I can't remember which one it was, smaller city, was actually using electric buses, you know, building a fleet of electric buses.
That's great.
So which one is going to prevail? I don't want to call hydrogen a non-electric bus, but let me just say, an electric vehicle bus, a hydrogen vehicle bus, which one will prevail? And if you can't answer that, tell me what factors are in play.
Well, I think the main factor is going to be technology and that evolution. I mean, if we see a big breakthrough in battery storage technology, that'll drive the outcome. Maybe it's a metal-air sort of combination. Maybe it's something we haven't even thought about, dilithium crystals. Who knows? But when we see that shape up, I think that'll drive a lot of it. And then plus, as Mitch says, the infrastructure. If we can produce large amounts of hydrogen from, say, curtailed wind, you know, wind farms that are being told they can't sell the power, but they can make something else.
That's a great idea.
That could drive some of it as well.
Yeah, because in effect, hydrogen is storage. You can store it and use it anytime you want.
Yeah. I agree with everything Jeff said. I think that those kinds of buses make sense on very short routes, like say the Wiki shuttle bus, where it just goes around a little loop and it stops and it recharges. But I think when you're talking longer range, for example, a bus that goes from Hilo over to Kona, you're not going to have that bus stop every 75 miles going over the saddle road.
Yeah.
So that, you know, it depends on the application. So I think there's room for all these technologies in the mix. I mean, even battery electric vehicles make sense. For example, if you can recharge your battery electric vehicle from your house, you know, PV array that you have on your house roof, that totally pencils out. And if you're only doing like I do about 15 miles a day. Wow, I mean, that's the way to go. But if you're trying to go to the North Shore, surfing and coming back, you get range anxiety, and that may not quite be the solution. I mean, you could have a whole range of battery vehicle chargers up on the North Shore. That would help a lot. So
Yeah. I don't know why, but you know, buses are really different than cars in the sense they have a lot of space on the roof, and the roof is usually flat. Okay, what does that suggest in terms of photovoltaic? Why don't we have buses that run, at least trickle, on photovoltaic cells on the roof? And vandals can't reach them so easily either. So it's like it's an opportunity waiting to happen. Why doesn't the Volta company do this? Some smart kids, you know.
You know, it would be a small trickle. I mean, you really need a lot of real estate to create the juice. But, you know, I mean, Prius did it with one of their models, putting the PV on the roof.
Yeah.
That just ran a passive air conditioning system.
Oh, just one element, yeah.
Yeah, you're really not going to get a lot of juice.
Yeah.
But hey, every bit counts.
Okay, well, I want to raise one other question, at least start the discussion of it, and Sharon Moriwaki raised it in the last break, and that is maintenance, and how you train people who can maintain, whether you can have cross-training between hydrogen and pure electric, and whether it's a kind of career that we would recommend right now or later, and what that means. Am I making this broad enough for you?
yeah,
This
you've got
is the
everything.
original multiple compound question.
Yeah, right.
And what that means to dealers, you know, who already have tons of people who are trained in fossil fuel cars. So who wants to start that with comments?
I'm happy to make some comments. This is a truly disruptive technology. Disruptive in the business sense, disruptive technology itself. Hopefully not too disruptive to consumers, because you get in your car, you drive someplace, you need to think a little bit about how you fuel that, but otherwise it's a regular vehicle. And that's the most exciting evolution, I think, with electric vehicles. They are, as you expect, a typical vehicle. But for the dealers and for the automotive sector, I mean, look at this startup Tesla by Elon Musk. I mean, it's a California company, you know, kind of a Silicon Valley sort of approach as opposed to a Detroit approach. And now Motor Trend Car of the Year after just a few years of development. So it's a whole different, you know, model for this
Really catching
large,
on.
you know, manufacturer that it has to completely retool their factories. You know, thinking about the unions and the steel workers and everything that goes into vehicles today, as opposed to carbon fiber and batteries in the new technology of tomorrow. And then for the dealer model too, Tesla's trying to disrupt that. Not having dealers. You go to the mall to look at a car, and then it shows up at your doorstep.
Dealers hate that.
Dealers don't like that for sure. There's some push in different states to make that impossible. And then also, when dealers sell vehicles, a lot of the income comes from the service later. The maintenance, and you have oil changes, and all these things. You don't have that with electric cars. You don't have to change.
You've got to
the
have
oil.
some oil, don't you?
Just minor amounts.
Just bearings type oil.
Yeah, not piston oil, not engine oil. So all that goes away, and so for the dealer, things are changing. I mean, you really have to look at how do they make money on these, how do the manufacturers make money on these, and then what the long-term play is. But there's new opportunities. Again, the network, provider for the charge spots, that's a huge opportunity. But it's a new landscape. It's a new landscape for dealers, for manufacturers, and for customers.
Sharon, when we went around, we took our trip around the union shops where they were training young people on how to do photovoltaic and all that. I had the impression they were also training them about electric cars. Am I right? Are they doing that in any of
I
it?
think they're doing it now with the community colleges, with the Honolulu Community College and West Oahu, trying to look at how they do train these people, because it's electricity in a car. So the dealerships that have servicing is not really geared toward the electrical part and what that means. So it's really getting new skill sets for their service people.
Should I go out and get trained? I mean, should I tell young people they should get trained in this? It's maybe a little early to make to make a good living on it.
It's going to take a while to do this transition. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. I agree with Jeff there, and they're going to have to come up with new models.
It reminds me of. You remember the Maytag commercials?
Yeah.
where the repairman would sit alone in his office and nobody would call him because Maytag works forever.
That's it.
That's what it's going to be like. It may not be a lot of work, but hey, you get a warranty and it pays. Anyway, we'll be right back to talk more. We're talking about the maintenance of hydrogen cars too,
Oh, we do?
Yeah, think about it. We'll be right back. This is Think Tech doing Hawaii, the state of clean energy, with Sharon Moriwaki and me talking to Jeff Michelina and Mitch Ewan about electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles. We'll be right back after this break. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel. This is Think Tech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is Think Tech. I'm Jay Fidel. Mahalo.
I'm David Day, the host of Asia in Review. This is a Think Tech program in which we take the issues of the Asia-Pacific region, whether they be in business, in foreign policy, in national security, or geopolitics. And we take those issues and we try to probe down in some real depth. Maybe it's not always politically correct, but we get to the truth. We do things that the regular media can't do. And the reason that we can do those things is because we here at Think Tech have the contacts, we have the network, and we can take the time and explore the issues in depth. Tune in every Thursday at 4 p.m. here at Think Tech Hawaii. I'm David Day.
We want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the gas company, a proponent of the liquefied natural gas initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
I'm Nicole Horry. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard of Kumukuhui Theater, and when I was young I used to love watching Charlie Chan movies on Family Classic TV on Sunday afternoons. Our show at Kumukuhui that runs from August 22nd through September 22nd is called Will the Real Charlie Chan Please Stand Up? It's written by Nancy P. Moss and takes place right here in Chinatown. I really hope you'll
We're back. This is Jay Fidel. I'm here with Jeff Michelina and Mitch Ewan, and also Sharon Moriwaki. We're talking about clean energy and the advances in clean transportation. And during the break, Jeff showed me this image on his iPhone, which looks a lot like a Volta charging station. Could you describe to the, and if you were watching, you know, on thinktechhawaii.com, our video stream, you would see this image. But what is this image?
You know, it was a consortium in Japan looking at electric vehicle conversions. So taking typical internal combustion cars, turning them into electric, and that's the motor that they would stick in the wheel well. So pull off the wheels, stick in the motor, pull out your engine, put in a battery, put in controls, and new car.
Very crafty.
Yeah.
What a great idea. You think it'll happen? Is it happening?
It's happening, but you know, it's in the R&D stage right now.
Yeah, what a great idea. That's elegant. That's elegant.
Because we have so many cars on the road, and they tend to stick around on the road in Hawaii.
I want to talk about that, but first, you know, the cliffhanger we left with last time was what kind of maintenance, you know, considerations around hydrogen cars, just to make the comparison.
Well, it's pretty well the same maintenance as we do for a battery electric vehicle. Obviously, you have the onboard hydrogen system, but that's pretty well a black box kind of an issue. I don't see people actually getting into the fuel cell and doing anything. It'll be repair by replacement. And the tanks, there's no repair required of that. I mean, you just have to pull those out, repair by replacement. So basically the same. And I just make a comment, for the buses, the bus fleets, the maintainers like working on electric buses because they're clean, there's no grease, there's no oil, all of that stuff. So it makes it a much nicer job for mechanics to work on these vehicles. A lot simpler.
I remember the facility on Cook Street. What is that, HCAT?
That's, yeah, at HCAT, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful there. There isn't, you can't find any oil on the ground at all. It's beautiful. It's a garage, but there's no oil in the garage. This is possible. Anyway, so moving on to the last area of discussion, I just want to, you know, sort of set it up by saying if you go outside in the parking lot here in this building and on Bishop Street, if you go on the freeway, you see all these SUVs and, you know, 2% electric cars, 98% fossil cars. We have a long way to go. And people, you know, when they say, oh, I'm going to buy a new car, they're always talking about fossil fuel cars. They're not. There's only a very small percentage of people. I think there's a correlation to how much you like clean energy, how well you're educated in, you know, public sustainability and all that. But it's a small number of people actually vote with their pocketbook on this and buy an electric car or, when it comes, a hydrogen car. What are we going to do about this? We have, you know, Blue Planet has been remarkably successful in reaching the public, in actually engaging with the public and changing their way of thinking on occasion, anyway. How are you going to do this? You got a long way to go, Jeff.
We do, in fact, longer than you suggested. It's actually 99.8%.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Right, it's not 2% at all. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think some of it's driven by, like you say, the early adopters. I think some of it's driven by the economics too. I mean, we're going to see that this stuff really pencils out. I mean, if you can get an electric vehicle for the $20,000 price point.
Yeah, but there's no more state tax credit.
No more state, but you still get the federal.
Still have the federal, yeah.
And the prices are going to drop. I mean, just like any technology, it's going to drop. And the per mile cost is so much less for an electric vehicle than a gasoline. Plus the maintenance costs pretty much go away. So it could be an economic decision for a lot of folks, particularly if they're clever lease approaches. Again, I think Hawaiian Electric could be in this business in some way and lease, you know, the vehicle or
it's true. Utility could get involved.
Right.
It is electric, after all. And somehow some model has to, I hate to say this, but it has to come up and compete with the dealers. The dealers like the fossil cars. And when people go to buy a car, they go beeline to the dealer. That's where they go, and they go look through a showroom full of fossil cars. So how do you get an electric car? I mean, well, some dealers have them, but a lot of the ones you really like, they don't have. And I mean, go on the net. People are a little uncomfortable about going on the net and buying a car on the net. So we have to change. Talk about disruption. We have to change the whole, may I say, the whole industry. I know it is changing.
It is changing, but some of the existing players are in this business. And like I mentioned, 15 new cars coming on the scene in 2014. You know, it's the Volkswagen, it's the Audis, it's the folks that Ford, GM.
They'll be in the dealer shops, yeah.
Yeah. So I think with a more range of options, different price points, you're going to see a continued growth and adoption of electric vehicles. And then it's one of those social norm things too. As you see more of them around you on the road, you know, you get more comfortable with them. And I think most folks that have driven one, they probably won't go back. I mean, it's a different experience. It's a whole, you know, different experience than driving a gasoline car.
I think it gets to be logarithmic after a certain tipping point, you know. When you find your neighbor is doing it, you look across the backyard and he's doing it, and, you know, your coworkers, they're doing it, and, you know, all these little elements to make you feel that this is the path to the future, this is really what's in, and the early adopters will grow in, you know, in percentage of the market.
And we might still see the pickups and the SUVs, but you plug them in.
Yeah. What about hydrogen cars? You have a way ahead.
Oh yeah.
And what's worse about it is that when he starts getting going on a logarithmic basis, there's going to be less room for you. You're going to have to really hustle, Mitch. Are you hustling?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I wake up every morning with my little feet running like that, you know, try to keep up. But I gotta say, like, my neighbor has a Leaf, and he's just like totally in love with it, and actually goes out and, you know, spreads the good word. And as
I do. I love my
Sharon does, she's even on TV saying, "Wow, this is really great."
The other thing about these cars, both hydrogen and you know, pure electric, is that they're really high tech. It's not just the fuel.
Well,
you look at the screen and it's beeping and booping all over you with colors and sights and sounds. I mean, it's very graphical.
Yeah, but you felt the power in that fuel cell car, which is the same as an electric car. When you put your foot down,
I didn't want to take it to. I want to fly. I was afraid I'd go, you know, into the. I'd start flying.
Like a Tesla will go what, 0 to 60 in like 2.5 seconds. I mean, you don't even have to change gears. I mean, it's just crazy fast. And so that's part of the appeal. Will be an appeal for people that, you know, like a very high performance car that's very responsive and reactive. So, you know, it's eventually it's going to be the better technology. And people will recognize that, and that'll be a slow transition. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a while.
Okay, but just remember that the guys who make the fossil fuel cars, they're building good technology too. And every year, you know, they come out with a million things that, you know, that surprise and delight you about their technology. So it's a battle of technology. It's not just the electrics and the hydrogens are ahead. They're not necessarily ahead in the incremental technology.
Well,
everybody's working on new technology.
All the big fossil fuel car companies are making electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles because they also have a constraint of pollution that they have to deal with. And so that's part of what's pushing it. The regulations that are coming in continually to meter down on the emissions of these vehicles. So they have to meet these standards in their overall fleet. So every major automobile company has an electric or fuel cell electric vehicle coming out.
That's the real news today, and it seems to be gathering speed and interest. Sharon, you got any closing remarks you want to make?
I want to just thank Jeff and Mitch for coming on and really showing us some of the technology and what's in the future, because I think we keep talking about clean transportation, but unless people know and feel that it's safe and that it's coming, that there really needs to be the public wanting to buy these cars for it to survive and really start growing an industry. So I think we should keep on telling the public about the new advances in electric vehicles, both from hydrogen sources and electricity sources.
So maybe we could go on location sometime and do another show.
Okay,
with electric vehicles, and
we can do this thing. Are you guys available for that?
Absolutely.
We'll make the same conversation, except we'll be on location.
Show people how safe it is.
But I think the important point is what you guys are really saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is the next time you buy a car, your very next car has to be an electric, whether it's pure or hydrogen, it has to be an electric. Am I right?
I think that we're getting to that point. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They want to make that 0.2% a lot more.
That's right. I think I would be remiss if we didn't say, the cleanest mile is the mile not driven. So,
That's true.
using
Walk.
another source is best, but electric, hydrogen is getting pretty good.
Okay.
I just want to top that off with it's really true that it's multimodal. It's not only just driving a car, it's getting a bus, public transportation, or it's walking. The
Walking,
healthiest
and
of all.
don't forget riding a bike. Well, this
And
is
riding
Think
a bike.
Tech. We cover this whole spectrum of activity. We're about clean energy, for sure. Jeff Michelina and Mitch Ewan, thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you, Jay.
Hope you come back soon. Aloha. We'll be on location next time. Aloha till tomorrow.